What's going on, Shinobi Faction? My name is Joshua Williamson. So for this little video recipe, I'm going to show you how to make a homemade blueberry pie. It's easy to make. It doesn't take, well actually, it does take a pretty long while to, make and to, if for you to be ready to eat. But in the end, it's worth it. This tastes amazing. And once again, I know most of you may already know this, but I've had a new commenter on one of my past cooking videos tell me this before, complaining about me not having a microphone, okay? I don't have a microphone right now because I left it 3 hours away from where I live, okay? So just deal with the fact that my voice sounds like this, okay? There's not a lot of sound because I forgot my microphone like 2.5 hours away from where I live, okay? Please be understanding. So anyways, let's get started. So to start off, in this big bowl, I have 6 cups of fresh blueberries. And to that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2/3 cup of white sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix everything together until it is well combined and it's no longer powdery. Like, it's pretty much moistened all around. Now, while you're doing this, you may need to, pop a few of the blueberries just to create more moisture to soak up all the flour. I'll show you what the mixture should look like later. This right here is what the mixture should look like. All the flour has moistened. Okay, so before I start rolling out, my pie dough, this is my own homemade pie crust recipe, okay? If you want to see a recipe for it, leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll show it one day. But anyways, my pie recipe makes a total of 2 crusts, one for the bottom and one for the top. So I have them separated. What I'm gonna do, they were in the refrigerator for about 3 hours, okay? And I'm gonna let them sit for 30 minutes at room temperature, just so it's a lot easier to roll out. And another thing I want to talk about is pan preparation. Now, I've got a glass pie pan right here, and it's 9 inches. What I did was I spread it with cooking spray, and I sprinkled a 50-50 mix of flour and sugar on it, also known as a crust dust. I think that's the way to prepare your pan, personally. A lot of people don't grease their pans at all, but I grease my pan, and I do this like I showed you, because, all the times in the past I've tried to make pie like this without greasing my pan, it's stuck like crazy. So yeah. And another thing I'm going to talk about is the oven. Now, in the oven, I have it preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't remember the temperature in Celsius, but on the bottom rack, I have a pan covered in foil, okay, a baking sheet, and we're going to be baking this pie on that lower rack. It's just so, we don't run the risk of, making the bottom of the pie soggy, basically. That's pretty much, in my opinion, the best way of baking a pie is on the lowest rack on top of another hot baking tray like that. And the baking tray also catches any juice drippings that come out of the pan. All right, now make sure that your countertop is well floured, and you want to start rolling the dough out until it's 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, now that the pie dough is rolled out, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll it on the rolling pin like this until it's completely surrounded. And then on top of the pie pan, I'm just going to roll it out like this so it's covering it. That's a really easy way of getting the bottom crust on the pan. Then just make sure all the bottoms and the edges are being touched. As you can see, I'm trying to do right here. I just described that freaking horribly. Now I'm going to roll out my second portion of dough. Same thing I did with the other one. And what I'm going to do now is take a pizza cutter and I'm going to cut it into 1-inch thick strips like this, because I'm going to be making a lattice design for the top crust. Now I'm going to pour all that blueberry filling that we made in. And now it is time to start our lattice design. Now take the strips that you just cut and sit like 5 across this way. And I don't know how to exactly to explain all the next steps, so just follow what I'm doing right here. Just watch me. Okay, so that's our design right now. What we're gonna do now is just take a pair of scissors or kitchen shears and just cut off any excess dough that's hanging too far off the sides. And after I did that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all the outer crust on the bottom and sort of overlap it on the top lattice design, just so we can seal up the pie pretty well. Just do what I'm doing. Just fold it over and just like mush it together like this. Make sure that they have bonded well. And now to give the edges a prettier design, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knuckle and two fingers like this, and then just like flute the edges like that. Granted, I'm not the best at doing this. I still have yet to master making a very pretty looking pie. Just a couple more finishing touches before we bake we'll bake this pie. Gosh dang it, I'm talking so terribly. What I'm gonna do now is brush all over the top with some egg wash, which is just an egg beaten with like a tablespoon of milk. This helps it give a shinier look while it's baking. And finally, I'm gonna sprinkle over the top with some turbinado sugar or raw cane sugar. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in the oven, same temperature as I mentioned before, 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't remember the Celsius temperature, but you wanna bake it for 25 minutes and then turn your oven temperature down to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius, and bake it for an extra 50 minutes or until you see a bunch of bubbles forming, a bunch of the syrup basically boiling over the crust, even all over the middle. That's a good visual indicator when it's done. Or if you want to be more precise, you can take a thermometer and put it inside the pie, and the filling should reach 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And as I mentioned before, put it on that pan that's on the lowest rack in the oven, and make sure that pan is hot too. That makes sure that the bottom crust cooks. And one thing that I forgot to say is, before the second part of the baking at the lower temperature, I like to take the silicone pie crust shield and put it around all the edges to keep the edges from burning. Now, if you don't have one of these, you could just put foil all over the edges and it works just as fine. All right, and this is what the pie looks like when it's done baking. The syrup is, the blueberry juices and which is formed in the syrup is boiling over, pretty much all over, and the internal temperature, I checked it, is at least 200 Fahrenheit. Now, what you want to do is let this rest at room temperature for at least 4 hours before you cut into a slice of it. And then when that time is up, I will come back, I'll cut a slice out, and I'll show it off for presentation. And also, yes, you see why this pan was necessary with the foil on top, aside from it being hot and, and it being able to bake the bottom crust more. It also catches those juices that have dripped out of the side of the pan, as you can see. All right, our blueberry pie is done. Like I said, it was really easy and really simple to make. Yeah, it is a bit time consuming, and the design I did on the pie, the lattice design, it is kind of like a way of art, if you get what I mean. It's something that you have to practice at to get it right. It is easier than it looks, but in the end, it's so well worth it. And you don't need to do a lattice design. You could just put the other crust on the pie without cutting it like that and just make a few slits on top if you wanted to. But either way you do it, this is amazing. Blueberry pie is one of my favorite pies in the world. That is such a good pie. But if you ever try this, leave in the comment section down below and tell me what you thought, whether you liked it or you hated it. If you liked it, you thumb it up, hates it, you thumb it down, and be sure to subscribe and become a member of the JW faction on a journey to 10,000 subscribers. God loves you. See you later.